Hi, welcome back to Dove Twang. I'm Dave. So we're going to look behind the curtain today at Dove Twang a little bit and go into the laptop and where I have opened up a session from a previous video, just a recent one. It's the one with the crow sitting on the guitar. There's two parts to it. And the backing track is like a southern rock backing track. It's that B flat F C. And you notice I don't need my glasses and my headphones and all my accoutrements, right? Today I'm just kind of introducing this, and then I'm speaking right into the laptop. So, it's not going to sound great, what you hear in this demonstration part of the inside GarageBand, but I just reviewed it. It sounds fine, Um, there was no way for me to put everything right from the interface in internally into the laptop and then get it into the movie editor and all that. If anybody has any ideas, I'm open. Um, but it occurred to me while I was doing this too that we could do some screen sharing, with some of the individual sessions and stuff too. Maybe if we get this sort of thing down and kind of really get in there and um, it's becoming such a topic on the channel and with individuals that I'm working with now. It's like I just really want to get that going. I just feel like that would help me get to the next level. I agree with that. Um, it's amazing what everything that you've ever seen on this channel was made on a piece of software, an app that came free on all my Apple devices. It's on your phone. It's on your iPad. I haven't purchased anything except the little interface, that I used to hook into it. So years ago, many years, when I was doing more studio work, playing, and some producing too, man, it pains me to think about how much me and a lot of people I know spent on equipment to do something that now comes free on your phone. you know, it's, I mean, it's great, something to be celebrated. So, hope you enjoy this. I expect this to create more questions than it does answers, but hopefully if nothing else, you get to see that tone and how it's built and what the settings are on the amp and the effects chain and stuff. And then I also included in this just kind of an overview of like making a loop and um, how I record the lessons and a little bit about how I edit them and so forth. So check it out. So here we are in GarageBand. I already have it opened up, or I would have showed you how you open it. But just like most programs up here, you open the application and then you go to a file and it'll have a list of your projects and however you organized them in there. And you just pull it up. It opens up into an environment like this. Um, and let's just listen a little bit. This is the loop, okay, the backing track. All right, now you can see I just named it Crow's Loop, which is the shorthand title for this one. And, I'll play, here's what that backing track's playing throughout the whole lesson. And then, when the guitar intros. Okay, so you see over here, I'm muting them. It's right now the sequencer is still playing, but everything's on mute. See, then you can, just toggle off the mute to hear whichever individual track you want or combination of tracks. And you can see that how I set up, the amp modeling and stuff and the effects, and it's all in a virtual space. Right? I got these amps over here that's just eye candy. Well, that was kind of serendipitous, wasn't it? I just randomly put on some part of the voiceover, or I'm recording it all at the same time, this part of it. So I'll have three things going, but I'm actually talking about this process in the little piece that I just arbitrarily turned it on there. So um, when I'm making the lesson, I'm just running 3 tracks. I have a backing track, my guitar, and my voice, right? But in preparation for that, I'll show you down here, these are the component parts, different instruments that made up the backing track. And I guess instead of turning them all on at once, we'll kind of turn them on one at a time. Gives you a better effect. And there's the drum part. Now you can expand all of these views, of course. If I show the what's called the editor. Oh, I'm on now. See, I have the one of the guitar tracks, that orange, I named that after an orange amp, highlighted. So I need to come down here and highlight our drum kit, and then it'll show, see, each one of these keys on this keyboard over here is a different piece of the drum kit. Snare or a kick, snare, hi-hat. You can kind of see there's like a little drum fill. Now this piece is in 3. See up here, 3, 4 times. Doesn't really matter what it says up here because unfortunately, well, it'll map it out that way for you when you're using these MIDI tools. But normally, 95% of what you hear on the channel was made with a drum loop that came right out of this list that's already on GarageBand. See, and you can audition them. They're all going to sound way too fast right now because of the way I had to use the sequencer to get this to be in 3. But you know, normally I just drag one of these right on over here. It's in 4. Then you go up here and adjust your tempo, you know, to how fast or slow you want it. It's very easy to use. It's brilliant. They sound good. I'd say just about everything you've ever heard on the channel was one of these loops that came with the program, with the software. So that opens that up and closes it. So in this case, I had to go in and take, like, see the little, how that turns to a pencil. You can put an event in. I'm going to delete it because I don't want that in there. But that's how I drew these in here. And after I got about 8 bars of it, I just put it on loop. That's what these sections are. See the little divisions, the tabs? That's how much I actually wrote. And then I just repeated it all the way across the tune. And you can see that that is, if you check the time, 15 minutes worth of it. Okay, so drums, and I probably started with the guitar, but then, you know, just to come up with the part, then I put the drums on and re-record the guitar, the rhythm. Sounds like that's the second guitar I did, probably. The first one I did probably was this one. Yeah. Okay, then I put well, there's 2 rhythm guitar tracks on there. Then I played some bass. We'll close this bottom part down here. Then I don't always put keyboards on it, but on this one I did put an organ. If you want to hear just that track, you can. And again, it's I played that on a keyboard that just plugs in by USB, but it also shows up as data points, you know, on your MIDI sequencer down here. Well, just a little, you know, overview of if you're not used to this sort of thing. So then I take these 4, or 5 rather, because I did put organ on that one, and you do what's called bouncing it. So you export it, and it takes this and you have to mix the levels of it, the volume and stuff. And when you're done with your mixing, I do a pretty quick mix. It's not real sophisticated, just setting the volumes really. Then it bounces it down to a single track, okay? And that is what you hear up here. Okay. You actually can say, that file appears in a folder and you can drag it, right back into the sequencer on a new row. And then I always name that the loop. So when I'm doing a video for the channel, it's always playing. When you don't hear it, I've reached over and muted it. And a lot of great comments, and a lot of folks seem to really enjoy this one. Then when we get to a part where I need to do a demo just real that uses the backing got a lot track of appreciation. I just click it right back on. About that's why I'm always reaching over. If you've seen me like leaning forward right when the backing track goes on and off, that's what I'm doing. So let's get into this guitar tone a little bit. Now we'll go back here. There's a couple. Looks like there were 2 videos using this backing track. Looks like I saved the first one. So this was probably from part 1. And then I probably duplicated that track. So I use the exact same sound. You can duplicate it just by going up here and just hitting new track with duplicate. It'll just make you another track with the same tone settings and everything on it. And I'll show you the tone settings and things in here in just a second. So I'm going to undo that because we don't need another one right now. So right now I've got the backing track and this, I'm not even sure what this is. We're going to see what it is. There it is by itself. Okay, I turned it down because I noticed that this one, the main one that I had set up, because I had to do a little testing just with this laptop microphone and stuff before we started. So that was probably way too loud when I first started it. Sorry for that, this lead. But then we can go right into this guitar tone thing. So that kind of gives you a look at like how the backing track's being created. So let's get them all muted and let's just listen to this one. Or this one rather. Okay, so let's say before I show you the settings for this one, let's say I was just starting this and I just wanted to, I was going to make a new track to do the guitar on, okay? So you come over here and you can select whether it's going to be like a microphone or a MIDI instrument, like a USB keyboard or something. I'm going to pick the guitar because it's just going to set me up to like be able to select guitar sounds and things, see? So we'll just ignore that. Now, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and bass. See these categories? Clean guitar, crunch, distorted. I almost always start with a clean one. Look at all these. And they will pull up sounds that are, that you can then, let me scoot this over slightly, that you can then look at the amp. Okay, so you have a virtual amp there. You can deal with all the settings on there. And an effects chain. Okay, now these are these sounds that they made up over here. They've already, made these chains and different kinds of tones and things. So you can just use those. I rarely use one that I find in there, exactly the way that they made it. I usually alter it in some way. And when I get one that I really like, I'll let's see if I go back to back here. Well, that's just going through different amps, isn't it? Yeah. So that's another way you can toggle through the amps. I hadn't really looked at that. But if we go back here to user patches, I've got some that I've saved. Now, well, you all like this one so much, I actually named a sound after it called crow tone. See? So, but before that, it was a version of Orange Jam. I started with this other sound that I had built some time ago, but I tweaked it again. So I saved the exact settings that I used to record this and named it Crow Tone. So that's a real cool feature. When you spend a lot of time working on a sound, you don't just have to trash it and do the whole thing over the next day or next week. You can just pull it right up. That's a brilliant thing about this. And that's in this thing called the library. And then you can close that to make more space. So now let's have some fun with this. It's still called Orange Jam up here because I hadn't stored it as a new name yet. But here's the settings. You can get into this view down here, and you've got a little amp icon over here. This is a Soldano amp. Okay, they all say GarageBand or some other phony name, right? But they all resemble very obviously amps that we're familiar with. That's a Marshall Plexi, meaning it's from the mid to late 60s Marshall, named after the plexiglass cover over the control panel. Here's one that I use a lot. It's like a Bassman amp, right? Obviously Fender here is called GarageBand. Then you've got different kinds of cabinets. I'm going to go back to my Soldano because that's the one we love on this one. I looked for Soldano. Wait, what was that thing called? They call it a stadium head. Okay. Warren Haynes is a famous Soldano user. Then you've got these different kinds of cabinets. You can switch around on those too. It's kind of fun. They sound slightly different. I don't know the science behind it. And you can choose a mic. I always choose Dynamic 57. I just don't see that much use for the different types. I guess there probably is. I just haven't taken the time. So that way, my ear is always expecting the same thing from that mic. It's a Shure 57. It's mic'd more guitar tracks on the planet than any other mic in history. So let's just go with that. So that's what's going on with the amp. And then of course you can just adjust your gain, just like you do on your actual amp. And then what I really enjoy is these effects chains. Now that, believe it or not, is an Ibanez Tube Screamer. Not sure why it looks like that. A lot of them will resemble things that really do look like it. This looks like a Healy, or is it Keeley or Healy? Keeley compressor, right? If you're familiar with that. So some of them you'll notice right away, and there's some that are like a phase 90 and, different kinds of delays, and they're all over here. You can pull them in, and you can just drag them out and get rid of them, and you can tweak them and put them in different orders. And I really like this delay, and I love this thing called the Vibe. So if we play our track, you can see that compressor didn't change the tone that much, but the sustain is key to the sound. Okay, and then I got, mild mix and feedback on the delay. because when I'm doing the lesson part, I don't want you to hear like, the note, repeating four times or whatever. But if I'm really cutting loose on a solo or something, sometimes I like to move that up a bit. So I kind of make a compromise on that sometimes. And then this is just like an Ibanez tube screamer, the same controls. And you'll notice that no matter what the names are, they all resemble some well-known item exactly. And this is kind of the key to this one. The Soldano amp has a dirty sound, but this really gives it the bite. So there it is without the tube screamer. Okay, it's a big difference. Now the drive's not jacked up all the way, right? And or the level, but just, sometimes I'll have that drive barely even on. I have it down here at like, 8 o'clock, and it'll still just add the right bite to it. This thing's like a rotary kind of effect. Right now I have it set, very low, but it just gives it. It's almost like a Hammond organ, like a Leslie sound, but not as intense as that. And sometimes I'll use a chorus from over here, but I really like this vibe thing. Not sure exactly what classic uh, effect pedal this is based on, but it's really cool. So you got your amp and your effect. These are just other kind of general, you know, um, panels that you can kind of pull up certain aspects, like the I won't get into all of it now. Is you can put other kinds of effects that sort of globally affect some of the tracks with reverb and things like that. I don't get too deep into that. Really, what I just showed you is pretty much the sounds that you're hearing on the channel all the time. So that's about it. And then I get to this um, lesson minus the backing track that I add at the end. Looks like it lasted for, you got to get your clock up here, 12 minutes and 21 seconds. That's about what I aim for, between 10 and 12. Then I add 3 or 4 minutes of the backing track, and yeah, that's kind of how it's done. Then when just like I bounce these uh, individual instrument tracks to get this loop, at the end of it, I'll highlight the voice, the loop, and the lead guitar. But the difference is I've gone in, and you can't see it here because I kind of stretched this back out, but I've carved out and removed all the parts of the backing track where I was speaking and I didn't need it, like this. Oh, did that on the wrong. Got to highlight the track that you're working on. But like, if I don't need it, I'll drag this over with a thing called a trim tool, and I'll wait for the next time that I need the backing track to come on for demonstration. See, and that'll line up with roughly. That's why sometimes you see kind of, um, imperfect edits on my channel. Is I don't slice and dice every piece of it, right? I just kind of chunk it out like that. It saves me time, and it kind of, you know, even though it's not as showy as some of the other methods of editing, I think it's why you get that feeling that you're kind of in the room, right? It's like, cause like there's not a lot of um, there's what you see is what's going on exactly, right? It's not all. It's not where I'm like making a bunch of snippets and then putting them all together later. It all happens in one continuous thing. Okay, well, hopefully that helps. And I know there's going to be questions and comments about this, so take a look at this and let's just go from there. And I hope that this, kind of demystified some of this and maybe spark some interest in putting together a little setup like this yourself. And that would be a great way to learn, but also it's just so much fun to record yourself and make loops. And it's not as complicated as it sounds like it would be, hopefully. All right.